Hi there, Andrew Lessman here, and what do they say, how things have changed? I remember about 10, 15 years ago when I had written a blog and I asked if folks preferred a video blog or a written blog. And 90% of the answers were written blog, written blog, written blog. But that was in the days before there was a high enough transmission speed that we could listen to a blog post or watch a video blog post on our phones or on all sorts of different devices. So guess what? Now we ask that same question. We asked it just a few months ago, and it was totally turned upside down. 90% of you said you'd far prefer to see a video blog to a written blog. So here I am doing a video blog. So I will talk about what's upcoming for the shows, but I also had another subject that I wanted to talk about. We might even extract the section of this blog post that deals with that subject. I'm going to talk about fragrance, because I think it's something that most of us underestimate on the potential health consequences of fragrance in our lives. And some of the research projects that we've been working on lately have underscored the issues that can present for so many of us. So, and we'll try to be doing these video blogs in the future. And what we'll also do, for those of you who still like to read a blog, it's very easy nowadays with technology for us to create a little bit of a transcript from this video and audio. So, I will not be able to, I have to start punctuating myself, period. No, I will not add punctuation marks in, but hopefully the transcript service can do that for us. But so this weekend, we have our Today Special, and it's our annual Today Special for Essential One, our Essential One multivitamin, which is unlike any other multivitamin in the world. Most times when people speak in superlatives about something, there might be some single characteristic that makes it unique as it relates to other products of its kind, in this case, a multivitamin. But I could probably go through a list of about a dozen things that makes our Essential One multivitamin absolutely and completely unique from any other multivitamin available anywhere else in the world. And I'll go through just a handful of them, the things that are most readily apparent to anyone who might be contemplating a multivitamin. Just to start with, what's nice about discussing a multivitamin is it's one area where folks really don't disagree. When it comes to omega-3s, perhaps there might be some disagreement, even though I struggle there, because when it comes to omega-3s, we don't get them from our diet. 65% of our brain is made of omega-3s, and even higher percentage of our retina, the macular region of our eye, is comprised of omega-3s. So, but omega-3s are like vitamins and minerals in that they're essential nutrients that our body can't make. But getting back to a multivitamin, that is a product that's defined by the vitamins and minerals that make it up, and the vitamins and minerals that define a healthy diet. We can't make vitamins and minerals. Our body cannot. They must be provided externally. For thousands of years, we've relied on our diet to deliver those nutrients. Our diet today, despite all the wonderful technology and agriculture that exists, agricultural technology allows farmers and agriculture to get all sorts of great yields, but yields of less nutritious foods, less nutritious fruits, less nutritious vegetables, less nutritious grains. Unfortunately, most of us aren't eating fruits and vegetables and grains. We're eating foods that are even lower quantities, lower content of essential nutrients, vitamins and minerals. That's the reason why experts, physicians, research organizations recommend a daily foundational multivitamin, multimineral. There isn't argument about that, because those are the nutrients that define a healthy diet. We know that our diet is no longer defined by its vitamin mineral content in terms of healthy, so we struggle in that regard. So our multivitamin delivers nutrients in the form that can be used by your body. It's not, if you simply look at the product itself and the label itself, that's just part of the story. The nutrients have to be selected, used in forms, and delivered to your body in a way that it's going to be absorbed and utilized. As we call it, bioavailable, available to you. With our product, one of the best examples of that is our form of B12. Typical B12 is not well absorbed or absorbed at all from a multivitamin. Unfortunately, even the form that they use is cyanocobalamin is not a natural form. It's a form that delivers and liberates trace amounts of cyanide, a poison, in our bodies. Yes, trace amounts, but why use that if there's another available source? I mean, that was the first source available to my company when I started my company 38 years ago. And I worked for a few decades to be able to make available a form that doesn't contain the cyanocobalamin, it's methylcobalamin, and also to be able to deliver it in a protected form so that it's not destroyed by the acid in your stomach. That's the principal problem with B12. Its molecular structure is so complex, large, and fragile that the extreme environment of our stomach, the acidity of our stomach, damages or destroys it before you have an opportunity to absorb it. That's just one of a couple of dozen ingredients in our product and a couple of dozen stories in our product that really make our products second to none. Beyond the B12, just the simple purity of our product. That I moved my company back in 1996 from Santa Monica, California, to Henderson, Nevada. Henderson, Nevada is in the middle of the Nevada desert. That desert has low humidity. Because we make our products without using additives, binders, fillers, lubricants, flowing agents, vitamin and mineral powders don't typically flow in equipment. It doesn't flow well, doesn't flow smoothly, doesn't lend itself to mass production. And certainly, if you're in Santa Monica and near the ocean where there's humidity, that's not going to work well. Or even if you're in the Northeast, if you're in Florida, if you're in the Southeast, there's humidity all around our country unless you position yourself in the desert, which if you're making additive-free multivitamin, multimineral, or additive-free products in general, all our products are additive-free, then you want to be in the desert. You want that low humidity. So our product is 100% additive-free. You get the vitamins and minerals you seek and nothing else. That's another thing that makes our product completely unique. Because it's made in an ultrafine powder, and because we also formulate it to be non-acidic and pH neutral, you could have the most sensitive stomach, and our product will not upset your stomach. Because it's not acidic, it's not adding to the acidity of your stomach. In fact, if you take it with food, it might tend to settle your stomach because of the buffering components and some of the minerals that we add to the formula. So it's a product that's gentle, it's mild, it's pure, it only contains the nutrients in the forms that you desire. We give you two options, 1,000 IU or 2,000 IU of vitamin D3. We also provide this special version, 30 milligrams of CoQ10. For those of you who've never tried CoQ10, it's an opportunity to see what CoQ10 can deliver. For those of you like me who already use CoQ10, it's an opportunity to get a little bonus of 30 milligrams. The reason I chose 30 milligrams, it's all the space we have in that capsule. There are no additives, so 30 milligrams of CoQ10 is effectively our little additive for this special version. But that's the amount of CoQ10 that when I first introduced CoQ10, I believe, to America back in 1984, I wasn't aware of anyone else who had CoQ10 available at that time. But when I first introduced it, that was the level we introduced. About a decade later, it went up to 60 milligrams, 5 years after that, up to 100 milligrams, and now our typical product is 200 milligrams of CoQ10. But 30 milligrams is still a great opportunity to experience the unique benefits of that ingredient, which goes to the very nature and the very core of each of our cells in our body's ability to produce the energy they must produce. And every cell in our body is responsible for its own energy production. It can't rely on its neighbors. So in our world, we have power plants that deliver energy to everyone. In our body, each and every cell, each and every one of those trillions of cells is independently responsible for that energy production. It relies on B vitamins and a number of nutrients present in this product, and it relies on CoQ10 as well. So that makes this a special version. Best pricing, best savings ever, a little bit more than 20 cents per capsule. So it's literally pennies a day. You don't take multiple capsules. It's just one capsule daily because there are no additives. That small, easy to swallow capsule delivers an enormous amount of nutrition. I'll go through all the science. I'll go through the reviews, which you can feel free to read some of the reviews if you like. There are thousands of them. And the reviews speak more clearly and more emphatically, more impassioned than even I do about this product. And I think so many folks we're disappointed with the vitamins that are out on the market. We're disappointed how difficult they are to swallow, how difficult they are in our stomach and digestive system, that we don't even care if they might help us or if our doctor recommends them because they're just so miserable to use and take. My product delivers all the benefits you seek, all the recommendations that you've received. That's the basis upon which we formulated this product, but none of the problems you've experienced otherwise. So truly a unique product, a unique opportunity. And as I said, our Today Specials, we do it once a year and you get more than a year's supply. Just in case we do this a little later, we try to do that. So you get a little bit more than a year's supply. And again, for pennies a day. And it's these two options, 1,000 or 2,000 IU of vitamin D3. So you could integrate that into whatever the vitamin D level you want to achieve on a daily basis. And they're both the same price, whichever you might choose. So we'll start at midnight going through the Today Special. I'll try throughout the day to cover different aspects of the formula, different aspects of the reviews and the science. But now, unlike say 30 years ago, now the hard part in going through the science is the abundant science that exists on multivitamin nutrition in terms of reputable clinical and research papers discussing their benefits, or simply talking about the science on vitamin D or vitamin B12, or even things we overlook like vitamin C. And of course, our vitamin C is non-acidic. So unique multivitamin, multimineral opportunity this weekend. And then the other subject I just wanted to touch on, and in the future, I'll do a more elaborate blog post and we'll also cite a number of research studies, but you could simply do this research online yourselves. It's something I've talked about for probably almost 40 years. I started my company 38 years ago. I've talked about the chemicalization of our world, easy for me to say, but that we live in a world where everything is basically chemicals, and not the natural chemicals that are just naturally present in our environment, but the synthetic chemicals, the petroleum derivatives, these chemicals that our body has to figure out how to produce, how to process, because they're all produced synthetically. They didn't exist until relatively recently. In most cases, most of these chemicals were introduced starting at the end probably of the 19th century, but really with a vengeance throughout the 20th century. And one area in particular that's a really easy area to make a difference in, and I'm sure there are so many people or many people watching this video who already have done this because they might have folks in their household that are already incredibly sensitive to aromas, to odors, to fragrance. And just because something smells good does not mean it's good for you. Nowadays, in fact, 200 years ago, if something smelled good, it meant it was a flower. It meant it was something out of nature. Maybe if it was at all, it could be an extract of those flowers or something like that, or potpourri or whatever it might be. That a couple of hundred years ago, if something smelled good, it was good. Today, if something smells good, probably 99% of the time, it's some solvent-based, petroleum-derived fragrance. If you look at a product and it says fragrance, or it says, in French, the word is parfum, but it's spelled the same way, P-A-R-F-U-M, parfum. It's odor that's added. And it could be comprised of thousands of chemicals. And guess what? None of those chemicals need to be disclosed on the label. It could be the most expensive perfume. It could be a household product on your counter that might seem a soap or a dish soap that might seem healthy. But that product, if it says fragrance or parfum, it's going to be who knows what. The way, if you want a fragrance in something in your laundry detergent, get some extracts, oil extracts. They're not inexpensive, but they're extremely concentrated. So get an extract of those flower petals, which are extremely concentrated, or an extract of, say, lemon or whatever it might be you like. And what's interesting, we've been working for a number of years on creating some environmentally responsible, both for the external environment and for our homes, household products. And in looking at all the products on the market and looking at fragrance and things like that, it's just alarming. And in looking at the research and the science, that there's all sorts of these phthalates and xylene and all these chemicals that are present in household products or perfumes or fragrance, that I would never use an air freshener in a house that's anything other than a natural extract of the plant or flower in question. Anything else, and you're exposing you and the ones you love to what I would say is in all likelihood carcinogenic chemicals. That means cancer, potentially cancer-causing chemicals that are also, many of them are endocrine disruptors, that they could emulate estrogen in the body, but they certainly could disrupt the way our hormonal system, our endocrine system functions. It's a simple thing to do. We don't need these odors, and there are all sorts of wonderful options. As someone who's looked at making these household products, the only way we will fragrance them, in fact, it's part of how we're going to go about eliminating preservatives from the products. Because some of these extracts, like rosemary and turmeric, they're wonderful natural preservatives. So you could avoid using all those nasty chemical preservatives. So there's all sorts of wonderful natural options out there. You could simply have herbs around your house or dried flowers around your house or these extracts of oil. But natural extracts, oil extracts of these plants. And it could be anything from pine bark to lemon rind to various flowers. And that's what we've been looking at with our various products. But in so doing, I realized how ubiquitous and how frightening all these chemicals are, whether it's the things we use in fabric softeners. I could be going out for a run, and if I run by someone who uses fabric softeners in their house, I could smell it. Because I don't, these chemical odors become so powerful, and they are not healthy. And I'm not sure how clearly I can express that they contain chemicals. There's no reason to use fabric softeners. There's all sorts of, again, natural alternatives to using these chemical fabric softeners, which basically, I believe, are just chemicals that coat the fabric, which we then get exposed to those chemicals that are coating the fabric. And these other parfums of fragrance, there are a long list of undisclosed chemicals, again, that don't have to be disclosed. And these are not chemicals we want to consume. So we all, in the last 100, 150 years, we've seen a dramatic increase in all sorts of diseases and things, and whether it might be beyond cancer, of course, which these chemicals, many of them have been identified absolutely as being carcinogenic, cancer-causing. And maybe no single chemical is at a level where we could say absolutely that caused that specific cancer. But when we're all exposed to small levels of thousands or tens of thousands of different chemicals, I think when you start looking at populations of hundreds of millions of people, you start seeing the incidence of cancers rise. And when we think about things like ADHD, and certainly everyone was talk a long time that vaccines caused it, which isn't something that I necessarily found in reviewing the science to be the case. But what I've always said was more likely was when we look at the absolute overflowing of chemicals that never existed before that we are now exposed to. We're exposed to in utero. So as we're developing, all of us are being bathed in those chemicals. As we live, once we're born, we're bathed in those chemicals. So there's no wonder. It would be a marvel to me if there weren't health consequences from the thousands and thousands of chemicals that we are exposed to on a daily basis. And it's very clear that there are health consequences. So what I'm simply saying, this is something where I think there's all sorts of wonderful natural options. I prefer my environment to be fragrance-free. And when it comes to using these household products that we're working with, we simply have picked these natural extracts of oils that also have these preservative benefits. Things like lemon tea tree oil we've been using, or simply lemon and lime both have wonderful properties, and in very small concentrations, we're talking less than a fraction of a percent, deliver preservative benefits and also a mild natural fragrance without using any nasty chemicals. Things like lavender and jasmine. These are not terribly expensive as essential oils, but they don't have all the chemicals that we don't want. So it's just something I thought was important to talk about. And certainly I'll talk about it more frequently. And I think if you do research online, you'll see underscored the fact that whether it's even the most expensive perfume or all the fragrances in household products, especially in things like shampoos and conditioners and laundry soap, and even all the big manufacturers of laundry soap now, the more standard brands will do fragrance-free and odor-free versions. Fabric softeners, I wouldn't go near at all. And when it comes to fragrance, the only fragrance we have should have in our world are those that you could say, if you looked at it, it could have existed 500 years ago or 1,000 years ago. Then you know it's a good fragrance. So again, the rest of those fragrances are, for the most part, going to be petroleum derivatives that contain all sorts of derivatives and compounds related to benzene and acetone and all sorts of chemicals that we don't want to be inhaling, because you have to remember about our sense of smell. Something fascinating about our sense of smell. Many of us don't think about it. First of all, we all know how powerful our sense of smell is, sort of on an emotional level, on an emotive level, that it could really remind us very powerfully of past memories. And the reason why is our sense of smell, it's literally when something enters our nose, it enters our body. For us to smell something, the molecules of the thing we're smelling had to become part of us, had to dissolve in our mucous membranes, had to become part of us. And then those mucous membranes, look at where our nose is located. It's practically a specialized part, just as I say this about our eyes, it's a specialized part of our brain. And it links directly to the most primal and primitive centers of our brain. So both from the standpoint of if we smell something, it is part of us. And certainly those chemicals as well have a neurological effect, have a physiologic, systemic effect. So we want to be aware of what we're exposing ourselves to, our children to, the people we love in our lives, because our lifetime exposure to all these petroleum derivatives, some of them unavoidable, are going to be, I think, a collective, an aggregate result in terms of certain disease risks. So to the extent we can, those odors and fragrances are optional. I would do away with them. And the only odors and fragrances, the best thing to do are odors and fragrances that could have existed 500 or 1,000 years ago, whatever the number you choose. It was before we were industrially creating odors that don't really exist. So hopefully that was helpful, because it's something very simple that can make a profound difference. And I think you'll also find in your household, you'll have less incidents of things that relate to respiratory irritation, and because that's one of the first things people start noticing when they eliminate those synthetic odors and fragrances from their environment. So less allergies and things like that. So I hope it was helpful. I will see you on Saturday evening at 11 o'clock for a variety hour, and follow up at midnight with our Essential One Today special. And throughout the day, go through a lot of science, go through a lot of comparison charts, and we'll read some reviews as well. So I look forward to seeing you there. And if this blog is interesting, we will post some of the science from various regulatory authorities and research associations that talk about how important it is for us to avoid the chemicals that are present in so many of these industrial fragrances that were all basically drowned in our environment. So thanks, and I'll see you soon.